Good afternoon to everyone that's joining in. We just want to get underway here. My name is Joseph Leon. I'm a senior BDM here at EVSE. I've been with the company now for more than a year and a half, and I'm across New South Wales, South Australia, and to some extent across the ACT and New Zealand as well, as we've become a true trans-Tasman entity in ourselves. Nick, if you just wanted to introduce yourself as well.
Yes, I'm Nick Franco. I'm a recent colleague of Joseph, just joined the EVSE company. I head up the Explore and software platform side of things.
Perfect. So on with it, I mean, look, for those of you that are obviously not familiar with us as a brand, we started back in 2015, and this was an idea that was really conceptualized with how Europe and the rest of the world was sort of transitioning to EVs. And over the last 10 years, we're now working with over 500 businesses, a vast majority of which, I might add, are in that fleet and in that private sector that we know that Australia has had a pretty strong uptake, if we can say so. And over the years, we've obviously trialed and errored a lot of different solutions. This includes a range of different hardware, and now we are predominantly focusing on our own in-house hardware and software solution with that true vertical integration, where we are possibly the only entity in Australia, I might add, to that extent, that has that complete vertical integration approach to our business. In that regard, look, we work with a lot of public and private sector entities across the country. A good example in the public space, for those of you that might be working for government, we do a lot of work with the New South Wales government. So that's across a lot of different departments here: Department of Communities and Justice, Health, I might add, Transport for New South Wales as well. So we've done a lot of work there in the fleet segment. And from a private space, look, you've got the likes of Sixt, who are one of our early customers in this regard, and we've now nurtured that relationships. And over the years, I think we've added that product and service line to them as they've grown and as they've scaled to different sites. And that's something I'm hopeful that I can touch on a little bit more today. The important thing to consider with us, like I said, is that we are a true trans-Tasman entity in this regard. We've got a part of our success, with no doubt, goes to the network of local installers that we've now helped establish across the country. We've got over 500 of these now, so they're very local to the area. And I think that's a deviation from how these things were done before, where you'd preferably have someone you work with, and maybe they were doing a lot of kilometers to get back and forth between the different sites that you might have. But now the approach really is that local experience, so that we're giving you that ongoing support post the installation to ensuring that you enjoy the highest charger uptimes quite possible, and something that we'll build on through this presentation. So like I said, when we started, we found that one of the pain points, especially from a fleet setting, was the importance of charger uptime, right? Because when you engage a service provider like EVSE to providing you with a solution that encompasses hardware, software, and ongoing support, you want that to be a well-knit solution where if your driver has a question or one of you guys had a problem with the charger and it's not working, you want to be in a position where that support aspect gets back to you ASAP, right? Now, in the years gone by where we've relied on sort of, shall we say, third-party solutions, it's not to say that the hardware doesn't work. I think where the market's evolved is that it's gone beyond the hardware now to who's providing you that solution of keeping everything together and keeping that experience the way it needs to, so that your fleet EV operations remain undeterred. So when your drivers or your team members go up to that charger, regardless of whether it's at home, regardless of whether it's in a public setting or in a depot, that the uptime guarantee is there with the support for your driver. So towards that, you're going to see the range of charging solutions that I've put forward here. We've got the widest range of hardware solutions here in Australia, including the Ocular Atlas Pro that I might just draw your eyes to over here, this little bad boy here in the middle that we've just come out to market. It was actually intended for the public space because of the outcry from the market for something with that, with the option to display and advertise information. But we're also finding that a lot of fleet customers are taking a lot of interest in this, because you can display things like how to charge and content relating to their EV charging experience, which fleet managers seem to really, really like, especially when you needed that DC charger on site. So building Ocular comes from years of experience listening to the market and how we can then tailor our in-house engineering expertise to catering to products that we believe that fleet operators would need. And it's something that I'll touch on for some of the other segments as well, including home and depot as we go through. And then there's the glue that I suppose brings everything together, which is Explorin. Explorin is now the fastest growing software platform in the country. We've got more than 4,200 ports across Australia and New Zealand. This is a segment that we've dedicated in this presentation, and Nick Franco from our Explorin team will be elaborating on this as we get through the presentation. And look, I suppose what we really wanted to do with you, with those of you attending here today, is to kind of elaborate on some of the areas or complexities that we've uncovered in this segment, because most of you might be at one of these stages, quite possibly one of these hurdles might be sort of in your mind as to how you're going to overcome this. So what we've done EVSE over the years is we've taken a sort of a top-down funnel approach to the way that we unpack those complexities around fleet EV charging. So the first question you're going to see there is possibly the broader spectrum there, right? It's really understanding how many vehicles you've got in your fleet. What is your projected uptake over the next 5 years? Where do you intend to charge? Because when you talk about charging your vehicles, now that might be at your home, at your depot, quite possibly a combination of the two involving some public charging as well. So it's really unpacking sort of how you can utilize the assets that you have with your business currently to incorporating EV chargers, keeping the cost aspect of things down, because we understand for you as a fleet operator, the main constraints are keeping the cost element of things under control. And then that's also something that the Explorin software package does help with, giving you that complete visibility of the charges, something that Nick will obviously touch on in due course. So, right. So the first step, you've sat with us, you understand that you've got 4, 5, 6 different sites. You understand that these cars are either coming back to that depot, or maybe a lot of those drivers are going home for their charging. And now you've sat with us and you've understood in a broader sense what that EV charging picture really looks like. So we really help you conceptualize that idea. Just bearing in mind when we're talking about fleet EV charging, it's not just the hardware and the software, it's also how your drivers behave, right? It's really tying all of that together and helping you conceive that idea in your mind. And that's the first step that we would do with you, is sit down with you and break it down so that you've got something of a very good informed idea on what that final picture looks like. And once we've got that, then we work out the balance, which is step 2, is based on how those drivers are anticipating to use those EVs. We then devise a solution that could be one or more of either home, depot, or public EV charging. So it just gives you that mix. And with the software, of course, you've got complete visibility of all that charging that's happening across the board. A third point, and one that, interestingly enough, I might add, gets overlooked fairly easily. I mean, like I said, we were working with the Department of Communities and Justice here in New South Wales. That's a good example I can give you, where we find that a lot of their sites tend to be leased. Now, when it's leased and it's not owned, you run into the complexities of having to deal with your switchboard limitations, because remember, you're sharing power with possibly other tenancies in the building. And then putting an EV charger, especially if you're going undercover and it's not outdoors, there are also more stringent requirements from an insurance requirement, and possibly needing sign off from some of your other tenancies as well. So we do find that that can sometimes be a tricky hurdle. So what's important there is also having a provider that can give you options that are maybe not a permanent installation. So we've got, if I can just go back to one of our slides here, we've got that portable roam charger just over there that's been very popular in leased settings, because you don't have an installation component associated to it, and you can just move on with your work quite easily. Whereas in an owned site, you've got the flexibility to decide where your car is going to be parked, how much power do you have of your switchboards that you can allocate for EV charging, and every little aspect of that control really is in your hands. So you get to determine the ideal spot for the EV charger that can actually help you keep your costs down. Whereas in a lease site, you might actually be at the peril of the landlord to using a certain aspect of the car park, and you may not get that flexibility to move it around. So it's having that provider that can help you around those complexities. And that's something we're certainly doing with a lot of public sector clients at the moment where a part of our proposal comes back with the option that they want, but then option B, what's your landlord going to allow you to do? And there's a safety buffer in there for you to work with and hopefully get an approval towards your fleet EV transition. And then once you've got that, now you know what your transition strategy looks like, you know where you're going to be doing your charging predominantly, you've got that information about your site, and obviously you've overcome that hurdle. The last piece is obviously how you're going to fund it. Now, conventionally in the market, people would buy the hardware, the software, they in what we call a standard CapEx model, I suppose, where you would be the ones running it on a daily basis. Whereas what's happened as of the back end of last year is that we've come to market with a solution called Charging as a Service that really bundles every aspect of that EV charging experience into one package over just a monthly fee. So you don't actually end up paying for everything up front, rather spreading the risk over a period of time. So I will touch on that as we go, but this is, in a nutshell, the approach that we've typically taken to going about sort of unpacking that complexity for a fleet manager or a fleet provider. And then with charging as a service, as I mentioned, I thought we'd spend some time here because this is really where we think a lot of fleet operators are going to find a lot of value, right? So there's 4 stages involved to this, guys. So the first aspect is the design aspect, right? So that caters back to the first point that I mentioned on the previous slide about understanding what that end picture means for you. So what we do there is we'd sit down with you, we'd work out which of your sites are doable for EV charging. We'd eliminate the ones that we don't think are ideal. We would get information from you, things like interval data, carry out site assessments for you with the option of a detailed site feasibility study as well, because we're finding increasingly more so that with a lot of insurance requirements that this is becoming a prerequisite, that they want a detailed report understanding how fire safety measures are being met, where are the chargers being installed, has this got the relevant approvals from everybody else involved, and that basically helping you with the design element of you conceptualizing both the charger element to it as well as the cost that goes with that. So you've got that information in front of you. The second aspect, I suppose, to CaaS is the operations aspect. Now, like I said, what happens here is in the standard CapEx model, and I will give you an example later so that this theory sort of makes a bit more sense, is that EVSE would take a true partnership approach with you. So what happens here is we don't just give you the equipment. We, as a part of that monthly fee, we would sit there with you as your unofficial employee of sorts, if you think of it that way, and we're supporting your operations on a daily basis. So that's not just the chargers, that's also the drivers and the support that they will need. So things like enabling RFID card access, allowing them the relevant support that they need if they're having trouble charging, and essentially monitoring all of that information and then feeding that back to you so that the fleet managers are well informed on how their fleet is really being utilized. And then from a deployment perspective, of course, regardless of the fact that you're paying this off in monthly installations, you actually get the entire solution up front. So we provide you with, we supply, we install, we provide ongoing maintenance for you. We also give you extended warranty for 5 years, which is something that most people don't do as a part of the standard CapEx model. But with CaaS, it's all bundled in really and then amortized into that monthly figure that ensures that you enjoy a 99% charger uptime. That's the benefit. That's why people engage in CaaS, because they want to make sure that that support aspect is there for you 7 days a week, and that you've got an uptime guarantee on your equipment, as well as the support that then goes back to your team, involving your drivers and anybody else that might be involved as a part of the EV charging project. Right. So as a part of that design element, again, I'm placing a bit of focus here because I really do think that that education piece up front in really conceptualizing how and why you should transition to EVs, if you're having that question, this is the stage where you get that answer, because what we typically do and what you're looking at here on site is some photos of what we do at site. So we'd come out to site, we take a few photos, we know where your board is, we know where your cars are going to be parked, and then we'd propose a pathway for where we're going to be running cables, where we're going to trench, and what that installation picture would look like for you is fully conceptualized from start to finish. So you've got that information in front of you. Now, this can be done in two different ways. We find for smaller transition strategies where if you're a fleet operator and you've just got maybe one or two sites and it's just one or two chargers, you might not really need to go to this extent of doing a detailed report. We've typically been able to sort of get that out of the way with a simple site assessment. But where if you're thinking I'm a fleet operator where I've got 10 sites and you really don't know how to approach it, this is how you need to go about it. So essentially you'd sit with us. We did this for Sixt, the car rental company, where we took about, I think, 20 or 30 of their sites. We put it on an Excel file. We went about a thorough analysis of which of those sites were feasible, marked them in green, which ones weren't, marked them in red. And that way we actually went back to Sixt and we attended each of these sites. So we logged some of them. So that's where obviously you're putting on the loggers at the main switchboard just to understand what their power draw is like during peak times of the day. And then we're able to sort of leverage that information and work with our ocular load control technology, which is an industry-leading product in our opinion, because this has saved fleet operators thousands and thousands of dollars. The purpose of load management really can't be understated, because what this does is we're well and truly aware that a lot of the sites that we work with, right, they're not going to be greenfield sites. They're not sites that are starting up from scratch. They're sites that have been around for possibly 10, 15 years plus. If you're in the public sector, I'm sure you'd be able to agree with that. And in that instant, power constraint can become a massive issue, because these sites are simply not built for having EV chargers, especially if you're thinking faster chargers. So what load management really lets you do is it ties all that together, the chargers that is, with your main infrastructure, and it just ensures that at any given time, these chargers don't throttle above what you've been allocated, right? And especially when we're talking about leased sites as well, things like load management become key to ensure that your house board is protected and that your wider infrastructure is not really going to be sort of threatened in any way by the installation of these chargers now adding to load at that site. So we're finding with a lot of projects that we're currently working on that this is an integral part of that design. That's really saving people a lot of money, because if you don't put it in, simply put, you're going to have to go down the road of expensive upgrades to your main switchboard, which might make the whole project not feasible for you. So yeah, so like I said, look, this is an area that Nick will touch on shortly with home charging, because I know a lot of you might have questions there. We've got a very exciting product that we're going to be talking to you about very shortly. It's called our OCPP Portable, and what this is allowing fleet managers to do now is to track their home charging, especially if you're in an apartment setting or in a shared site where you really don't want to take the risk of supplying and installing a dedicated EV charger. You can now do that through charging as a service, where for a mere $50 a month over a 5-year period, you can have a home charging solution delivered for your driver. And then when they leave, they can either pay out the breakout price and take it with them, or you can take it back and pass it on to your next driver when they go in. So it's something Nick will touch on in due course. But yes, again, the real advantage with charging as a service for your charging setup is that every place you charge essentially becomes a petrol bowser, right? And if you can have access to that charging infrastructure, minus that expensive capital up front, with the support coming in from that CPO as well, you're essentially promised a completely hands-off approach towards managing your fleet, which we're finding increasingly so becoming the case, because either EV charging is too complex for you, or maybe you've just not got the capacity to sort of take that on with your current operations, and you need that education and that expertise by your side. So that's something that we're certainly picking up more and more, and we do believe charging as a service is now alleviating some of those pain points in the market. So just with a couple of case studies, look, we did want to put this in here because we just didn't want to obviously get your head spinning with all the theory. So this is a health site that we worked for here in New South Wales. They wanted about 17 parking bays electrified. So it was a pretty serious EV transition. So for any of you that are thinking along those lines that you might have something similar, if you look at this, they wanted a combination of a fast 60 kilowatt DC charger, the kind of charger that gives you that full top up in less than an hour or two, so that vehicles that are coming back during the day can have that quick charge and go back out again. And then the chargers that supplement a lot of the overnight charging with your single phase 7 kilowatt solutions. Now, from a capex perspective, which is how the market, shall we say, has conventionally done this, it would have cost them about that $180,000 mark. Right. So I can't obviously put the exact numbers in there, but it was about that. And what they were getting as a part of that was the hardware, the software, the installation, the 5-year warranty provided to all government work, but there was no ongoing support and maintenance. And now what that means is that they put these charges in, and it's at their peril and at their risk to obviously manage and monitor that every day. And then we're obviously there by the side to support them, but that support is not proactive. It's more reactive to anything that really happens there at site. Whereas with the CaaS model, what we're saying is we're taking that 180 grand, but we're also putting in extended warranty and that support package from EVSE. So you've got someone from our team by your side as you're scaling across these sites, and we amortize that over a 5-year period, and you're paying what is a mere fraction of that, $3,827 a month, with a promise on that charger uptime 99% guarantee, because you've got that support aspect looked into. So what that really means is that you're going to have someone that your team can reach out to if they have to, but if not, within an hour or so of this charger going down, if there is a fault, our team members are already on it. We're already on it. We're already creating support tickets, and we're already getting in touch with you and telling you what you guys need to be doing, or if at all you do have to get involved with regards to getting it fixed. And that way, that 99% charger uptime is maintained and monitored over a period of time. And then I thought another example that I can share with you is a case study for a TAFE site that we've sort of done up in regional New South Wales, where again it was a smaller scale solution, just a couple of chargers, one with the expansion to a second one since we've made this slide. So that was about that 50K upfront. Again, very similar 5-year warranty, hardware, software installation, but again, that support piece is not there. So what this really means, again, is that fleet manager really has to be sort of hands-on with the charger, with their drivers for any support. But under the CaaS model, it's that mere $1,000-ish a month over a 5-year period, where that FMO drive, where that fleet operating manager hopefully does not have to get involved with managing that hardware in any way whatsoever, because that would fall on EVSE, and then we help answer, set up any drivers that need to be set up, or help answer any questions that you need. We're there proactively by your side with a guaranteed response time to ensuring that all inquiries and support relating to the chargers enjoys that 99% charger uptime like we spoke about. So in a nutshell, that's sort of I suppose what I wanted to get through from a hardware and installation perspective. But like I said, I think where the market's really grown now is into the software piece and how that really brings everything together. I'm going to leave that with the expertise of Nick Franco here to sort of get into that. But just a quick reminder, guys, if anyone does have questions, to please pop that in the Q&A and chat section, and then we'll build it forward from there.
Thanks, Joseph. So as Joseph mentioned up front, what we're aiming to do is provide fleet operators or fleet managers with a total turnkey solution. So I've just got a few slides which explains what the Explorer and software platform does and the part that we play in that turnkey solution. So we're a software platform, we're an EV charging software platform, and we provide management for chargers in all locations, whether it's homes, private chargers, for instance, in apartment buildings, or fleets and public chargers. So we manage chargers, but we also manage the vehicles themselves. And we provide Australia's leading app for drivers. Next slide, please, Joseph. So just a snapshot of where we are at the moment. Explorer manages well over 4,000 charge points. Of those, over 1,200 of them are what we would call public chargers. And we've got over 60,000 drivers registered with the Explorer app. These are active drivers, and that represents 60% of all EV drivers that would have Explorer on their phone. Next slide, Joseph. So when we talk to fleet operators, and many of them are kind of newly started on their journey, on their transition to EV, and so it's a massive learning curve for them. And you will often find fleet operators or fleet managers will start to get hung up on particular aspects of the transition. So they might just have this huge focus on chargers, or they might get really focused on the vehicles themselves. But what they will learn quite quickly over time is managing a fleet and transitioning it's actually an ecosystem. And so they need to look at and to incorporate all aspects of their fleet and how that transitions to EV. And this is what we focus on with our turnkey solution. So the EVSE group, as it were, provides all of those elements of the solution of the ecosystem for a fleet operator. So the Explorer platform provides the software management to support the drivers and to support their chargers. The EVSE team, as Joseph has already explained, we provide the backbone where we provide all of the infrastructure, the installation, the maintenance, the support, and even the financing. We can provide all of that with our own Ocular hardware. Joseph's already covered those points off. Next slide, Joseph. So essentially, Explorer provides two things. As mentioned, we manage fleet chargers and we manage fleet vehicles. Next slide. And in my full presentation, I've obviously got a slide for each one of those, but for the interest of time, here's all the things that we will provide from the platform, just in short, to help you do that. So all fleet operators get a dashboard. They're able to log in and they can see all of their chargers. They're able to manage their chargers, and through the dashboard, they're able to manage and track all of their fleet EVs. We use the platform to monitor chargers 24/7. So we are constantly looking at all the fleet chargers in your workplaces and depots, and we are providing the information, the notifications and alerts to the EVSE maintenance team, so that they can do their bit in maintaining the chargers and achieving those uptime rates. Data security is obviously a hot topic these days. We conform to all of the data requirements in this country for EV charging and drivers. Access control is something I'm going to talk about separately. Joseph has touched upon the fact that we provide load management, and so that takes the form of static load management, which is hardware based, but we can also, through the Explorer platform, provide our new dynamic load management, which is where we can help control the load of the chargers through the cloud. And this is dynamically done, and we're getting huge uptake for this particular feature. But as well, we're providing access of your vehicles to the Explorer public charging network, and we're able to provide you with a total fleet vehicle management through tracking. Next slide, Joseph. Next slide, Joseph. Yep, thanks. So the Explorer app is free to download. All drivers can download the app, And through the app, they use it to find the chargers that are near to them. They can see in real time whether the charger is available or in use. They can add RFIDs through there, but they can. This is also available for fleet drivers. So this can be linked to fleet accounts. So fleet drivers have got the choice of their own personal account or their fleet account, and they can use the app for their fleet organization purposes if they so wish. Next slide, Joseph. But more commonly, fleets operators will use the RFID. Now, we have a feature within the portal whereby fleet operators can manage their own RFIDs. So they can log in, they can add vehicles into the fleet with the registration number, they can take an RFID using the unique code, they can link that RFID to the vehicle. This now allows the vehicle to be used by multiple drivers. It can be used to charge on all of the different locations where they charge, and it now allows the tracking to occur of their vehicles through the dashboard. But essentially, your vehicles are going to charge in 3 different locations. So, of course, they charge at work, and many organizations are now starting to install the chargers in the workplace, which is backed by our EVSE capabilities. Bearing in mind, not all organizations have the ability to install workplace chargers. They might not have the space or the funds, and so they might need to rely on other forms of charging. Using the RFID and the app, they've now got access to the entire Explorin public charging network. But they also can use the same RFID or app to charge at home. And I'll talk a little bit more about those 3. Joseph, next slide. So if you're an organization that's putting in workplace chargers through the platform, you can go into the dashboard and you're able to have full visibility and management of all of your chargers. You might have multiple sites and multiple chargers, but you're able to log in and filter by charger or by site, and you can see everything that's going on with your own chargers. How often are your chargers being used? How long are your vehicles staying plugged in for? How much energy are your vehicles consuming, and what's the average? What is that energy costing you? And as mentioned, this is how we're monitoring your chargers and the performance, and you're able to see all of this information in real time, or you can download all of this information into a CSV file and use this for financial reporting or for sustainability reporting. Next slide, please, Joseph. And as mentioned, you're now able to, your vehicles are now able to use the entire Explorin public charging network using the same RFIDs. So the Explorin public charging network, as mentioned, there's over 1,200 and it's growing rapidly. We are also a charge point operator ourselves. So we provide our platform for charge point operators. We manage our own chargers as well. So we know both sides of the coin. And the network is growing at quite a rapid rate. We've just recently taken on the new account for Bunnings. So Bunnings has launched their public DC charging network, and the first site went live on Monday, and they've got over 850 locations, and they're planning to grow their network. That's all on Explorin. And we do have a very large announcement, which we can't talk about now, but next week we'll be able to announce a really huge boost to our network, which will be adding considerable numbers of DC chargers to the Explorin network. Next slide, Joseph. but we also provide charging at home. So Joseph has talked at length about how we do this and how we support it. But if you have fleet chargers that you install in the homes of your employees, these can be linked to the Explorer platform, and so through your dashboard, you're viewing these home chargers as part of your fleet of chargers. So whether they're at work or at home, they're all visible through the one dashboard. The beauty of this is that you're able to allow your employees to take their vehicles home, charge at home, and through this mechanism and the visibility through the dashboard, you can now reimburse your employees for the charging and the energy they've used at home to charge their own vehicles. And in some ways, especially where there's constraints on installing chargers at work, you might not have any more space, you might not be able to add more chargers. Home chargers become an extension of your workplace charging. So this is kind of a natural step to take. In some instances, many vehicles, tool of trade vehicles, need to be housed at home and charged overnight. This is our mechanism for helping that to work. Next slide, Joseph. But we do have this awesome new product which is just about to be launched, which is our portable IQ. This is also for providing to your employees with their vehicles. They take this home, and this can be plugged into a normal 3-pin wall socket. This means no installation costs. Electricians are not required. They take it out of the boot, they plug it into the wall, they plug it into their car. It now starts to charge, and this charger has an inbuilt RFID reader. So again, they use their RFID, which then connects it to the organization's dashboard, so they can now start reading this information just as if it's one of the workplace chargers. It also has a built-in modem and SIM card, so it's 4G connected. There are 5-pin versions if the home has 3-phase, or if a faster charge is required. That does require an electrician to install a 5-pin plug, but it's nowhere near the costs of an installer coming in to actually install a full charger. So this is a really, really low cost, flexible system that allows vehicles to be taken home and the driver to be reimbursed. It's a real missing piece of the puzzle for fleets. So this is how we cover the whole range of charge at work, charge on the go, charge at home. And so finally, with the vehicles being linked to with the vehicles having RFIDs linked to them individually, and the drivers are able to tap on wherever they charge, this means that the fleet operator is now able to track the vehicles to quite a significant degree. They can log into their dashboard. Again, they can go into the fleet area, and they are able to look at all of their vehicles by registration number. They can see where each of their vehicles is charging, what date they're charging, what time, how long they're charging for, what location are they charging? Is it at work? Is it somewhere in public, or are they charging at home? They can see the kilowatt hours consumed by the vehicle, and they can see what that is costing them. So this is fleet operators love this. They can track the usage and the costs of their vehicles to a really, really fine degree. I think that might be the last slide, Joseph.
Yes, thanks for that, Nick. So yeah, look, just a quick summary. So obviously, CaaS goes beyond your conventional setup of just having a charger with no visibility, and really gives you that 360-degree view of both the driver's performance as well as what the charger's doing for you on a daily basis. And we really think, especially if you're a fleet operator that's got multiple sites, there's absolutely no doubt that you should be thinking hardware, software tied together with a CaaS solution that really gives you that expertise to giving you all the information you need with regards to how your fleet's operating, so that from a cost perspective, you've got that visibility over time to what is it really costing you and your business to having these EVs running in there. And then that information is then what you would use, obviously, for future procurement and a future transition strategy that's backed by EVSE's 7-day support. So just to recap, we are a local entity. We're based here, headquartered in Sydney, but we've got offices in Melbourne, in Brisbane, in Perth, as well as in New Zealand. So we've got the range, and we really do think that in the months and in the years to come, you're going to be hearing a lot more about this, because there's no doubt that CaaS is the future as far as fleet EV charging is concerned. So that's about it. Look, we didn't really want to obviously get too deep into anything, just given the purposes of time, but I've noticed there's a couple of questions that have come through in the chat, so I'll just answer that now. But just be across it that we will be sending everyone who's attended or has even registered to this a recording of this webinar, so that you can then share it with anybody else that it might concern, should they be looking for that advice and assistance in this line. So the first question I've got here is from John. Hi, John. Thanks for attending. You've asked us what is the cost of the audit. Yeah, so with that, John, we've got a couple of options. We've got option A, where we don't need to load log your site, so I don't need to send an installer out there and log it. We can do that if you can share interval data with us, and we've determined that the information you've provided from your monthly invoices is sufficient to scoping out our design solution. Then that is about that $2.5 grand mark. But then we've also got the preferred tier, which is the one where we do the actual load logging. So we send an electrician out to your site. There'll be a brief shutdown of your main switchboard. We put on the load logging device, which is monitoring the consumption of your main switchboard over a period of time, or the board that we're going to be coming off. It just depends really on your site. And then we do that for about a week. And then we remove the loggers, and then we actually detail a report based on that data that we've collected from your site. Now that can vary. Don't quote me on it just yet, but it's about that $4 grand mark. So I'll send you an email, because I do believe I've got your information. So I'll send you some information about that when we're done after this. Hi, David. You've also asked us a question about how much the IQ Portable is, the one that Nick just spoke about there. We haven't got the official pricing out just yet. We're taking sort of indicative orders, but it's about that $1,200 mark-ish. We will send you official pricing for the 3 variants that Nick spoke about. So you've got a 10 amp standard plug, which you can pretty much just use at any home socket or anywhere that you go. But as Nick mentioned, you've also got the 5-pin single phase and 3-phase options if you're obviously looking for that faster charge at home or at an apartment or wherever it might be. So I'll send you some information about that once we're done with this call. And Cynthia, yes, thanks for attending as well. We will be sharing a recording. We will be, of course, sharing a recording of this fleet webinar, so that you can share that with anybody that you'd like to. As far as I can see, that's about it in terms of questions. We will be, like I said, Lucas, we will be sending a courtesy email out to everybody. So feel free to, reach back out to us if you feel you're at that stage, regardless of where you might be. You might be someone that's just planning that transition strategy, or you could be someone who's well into that strategy, but you're just looking for some advice because you're kind of stuck with one or more of the pain points that we spoke about today, or maybe you just want to find out more about Ocular or Exploring. Feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to host a one-on-one session for you, walk you through it and make it more specific and tailored to what your needs are. And in that regard, myself and Nick, we're happy to make ourselves available and really provide you with the right guidance and support there. So I think I might just leave it at that.
Joseph,
I've also got a question here.
I was just going to say, there's one more question from Cynthia.
Hey, Cynthia. So with that, no, so we look, the point of the Ocular solution was just the promise of the 99% charger uptime, because we design and develop Ocular over the years that we've obviously gained all that experience that we have working with different manufacturers. We now make our own solution. So with that, obviously the support team is just downstairs. I don't have to palm you off overseas or anything like that to get an issue resolved. Our support team are here in Australia, and that way for fleets especially, because you've got questions and you've got a vehicle that's come back and he needs to go out and your charger's not working. I can't tell you that I need to go overseas to get support. I need to be in a position where I can give you that support then and there. So the Ocular solution's been the preference because of that vertical integration that we spoke about, just keeping everything succinct within the one entity. But if you came to me and said, hey, I'm very specific about a certain smart brand that I have to use, or you've already got that there, then as Nick mentioned, there are ways where we can still put Explorin on that charger. We've got the Explorin load control as well that Nick touched on, which allows us now to sort of integrate other brands as well into an agnostic load control solution if that was something that you're after. So there's a few different ways that you can work. It really comes down to your site and what you're looking to achieve. And that's what we would do with that first step, if you recall, where we help design the solution for you. So that's something, if I will send you an email, Cynthia, and if you feel that there's something there that we can help you with, let us know. We'd love to schedule a one-on-one with you and help you with that.
And Joseph, it is fair to say we do work with other brands. You know, we do have a list of supported chargers. However, for CaaS, I think we tend to prefer Ocular just because it's a more of a known, you know, it's our brand. But we do have lots of other charger brands on the Explorin platform. So I guess our remit is always to give the customer what they want.
Absolutely. All right. Did anybody else have any more questions at all? Well, look, what we might do then is, like I said, we will send the emails out, so feel free to reach back out. I'll hopefully try and get in touch with as many of you as possible personally, so that we can look to see where you're at and if there's anything at all that EVSE and Explorin can help you with. But if not, it's been a pleasure. I'd like to thank everybody who's attended today. I hope you took something away from that. Like I said, we didn't certainly mean to cram you with too much information, but I'm hoping that's been of some relevance. But we'll be in touch, and then obviously if you've got more questions, we'll go from there. It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you.